Hey, Perry Tinsley here, creator of the Power Blast podcast, owner of PutYourselfFirst.com. Welcome to the Decade for Change lessons, blogging series, whatever you want to call it, on my Go For Results site. This time, it's, I don't know if this, where the lesson is here, but something I need to share because it's part of the story, it's part of the journey. And this is going to the scene of the accident in literally the next day that we lost Terry to a head-on collision. So for those of you that don't know, my wife was driving home from after getting a root canal, and she stopped off in Madison. Obviously, she was okay to drive and everything like that because she went to liquor store to bring home some wine and things like that. And was driving home and caught a long stretch of country driving. And, I don't know what the situation was, but she crossed the center line, went head on into a semi. And both the semi and her doing 60 miles an hour. Well, you can imagine, the semi versus a PT Cruiser, what that did. And so, from what I heard was the highway, and it was a major highway between our city of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, and Madison, Wisconsin, and so it closed down that highway for several hours. And weather wasn't a factor or anything like that. So the next day, after finding out that night, and the next day, I think it was the next day. I can't quite remember what we all did, but and I remember being really pissed off at my mom for this. I don't know why she needed to. She absolutely needed to see the car. She had to see it. Maybe that was her way of closure. I don't know. But to me, I was done with it. I was angry. It was like, no, we don't need to do that. Let the car go. But we did need to go and address that. There may have been things in the car, possessions, stuff like that needed to be recovered. And so we drove out. I don't know what day it was, but we drove out, and it was a really snowy, cold day, very cold day. And we drove out to, kind of a rec yard in our city, and there was the car, totally, quite totaled. The lady at the shop said for us, she goes, "Now don't freak out when you go and look at it. All of the red stuff all over the car." Was not Terry. It was there were several bottles of wine that got shattered. So that was good that she gave us that notion, because it would be very easy to pass judgment just by looking at the scene. But it was hard, and I don't know if I was angry or in denial or what the deal was with that. But literally on the drive to that place, it seemed, Terry's secretary drove us there. It seemed like it took her forever to drive through that town to get there. It was like, if it was a 25 mile an hour thing, she was doing 5 miles an hour. It just took forever for us to get just across town. It was a small city. But yeah, acknowledged it, and mom and dad were, kind of like, "Aren't you glad we came here? We found this, we got this, and we really should take these things." And I tried to see the silver lining in it, really wasn't ready to accept it, to look at it, to acknowledge it. And so it was a hard scene for me. It didn't drive me to sadness or anything like that. It just drove me to want to look at it, to avoid it. It's not real. And so I look at it that angle because I didn't want to admit those things. Yet on the flip side, I could get on the phone with people and share the news and have, and be the one to, tell them the arrangements and coordinate the entire funeral things. So I don't know where that, how I can be in one element, one frame of mind, one place, and then I guess when you're really facing it, it's not real, more abstract versus the concrete is right there in your face. But that was hard. I mean, that was really hard to do those things, and maybe the place that it's at, I think the insurance adjusters and stuff like that had to come out and take a look at it. So then I don't know if it was the same day or the next day or whatever, but we did drive out to the scene of where it happened, based on the write-up in the newspaper. Oh, that's right. I should talk about the newspaper things at some point. But the scene of the accident was just one that you tried. I mean, you saw the skid marks. Well, actually, you didn't see skid marks. There wasn't. It was so you saw the indications of the crash and things like that, but there were not skid marks. That that was a big indicator. So it was hard trying to figure out exactly where things took place until you got out and walked around and saw car fragments and things like that. I was pretty impressed with the highway department, how well they did clean things up. But that was just another kind of, yeah, I'll go here, I really don't want to, but I'll go anyway type of thing. And all I kept thinking is, why is my mom obsessed with going and seeing these things? I don't get it. But that's where she was at. I need to step back and realize that's where she was at. But at the time, I was mad at your mom, and I think I told you that. But I don't know if it helped with the grieving process or closure and stuff like that. I gotta know. I have to visit it. I think that happens for a lot of people if they lose somebody to a car accident or a tragic death someplace. It's easy to go back and revisit. I know in following years, as I would drive by that spot on my way to and back, Madison, I would still envision the scene, as I was driving that way, kind of picture the scene of how she could cross the center line at the point that she did. And I got it. I understood if there was a little distracted driving, or just you got into, it was just this long, I don't even know if it was distracted driving, it was just this long stretch of road that you were just going on and on and on and on and on, and then it just subtly did, subtly did a curve, and if somebody was still going straight on and on and on, you could cross that center line, But those are the scenarios that play in your head, you don't know what the situation was, you'll never know. But it's really easy to let your mind mess with you and do that. So there's a story about going back to those scenes of the accident and, seeing the evidence of what happened. And in a future one, I'll share that that really tough situation when I was in the funeral home, saying my goodbyes and seeing Terry for the first time in that state. Hard. So anyway, thanks a lot. Talk to you later.